In 1899, the Department of Fish and Game was established in Idaho with a departmental budget of $1,500 or $1,500 or less than what I pay for my mortgage, which is ridiculous, right? Well, according to the Department of Fish and Game, Idaho's Department of Fish and Game manages 370,000 acres of fish and game land, and that does not account for the millions of acres that it manages through agreements and lease programs as well. In fiscal year 2020, Idaho Department of Fish and Game released an expense report talking about how much it costed to monitor, manage, and inventory wildlife in the state of Idaho. I'll tell you what, it's not $1,500. We're sitting now at $115 million. Even with inflation from 1899, that is crazy. We've jumped a lot here, okay? So I'm talking about expense reports. I grew up hunting, fishing, and camping in Idaho. And I'm guessing because this is an Idaho-based college that some of you have also been fortunate enough to explore some of what I believe is Idaho's greatest asset, also known as public land, that beautiful green spot on a map with bounds of wildlife, right? At least I'd hope so. The older I'm getting, and I'm realizing more and more how important having access to this land is, and how much protecting wildlife, how important it is in general. If there's one thing you can take away from this speech, it is that hunters and fishermen are the reason that we are able to conserve the wildlife inside this state. Without the funds from hunting and fishing, there is no way we'd be able to protect and keep these species going for generations to come. Okay. There's a few things that I want to hit on. First of all, how the sale of hunting and fishing licenses make a gigantic impact on conservation. I want to talk about the Pittman-Robertson Act, and then I want to talk about where some of those funds are going as far as helping our wildlife. Okay. So hunting, fishing licenses, tags, and permits. You probably wonder, hey, you go purchase a fishing license, you go purchase a hunting license, where does that money go? Years ago, I would have just assumed it went in somebody's pocket who's getting big, fat, and rich, and I didn't know. Well, really, 48% of that money goes directly back into conservation. So every time you're purchasing a hunting, fishing license, tag, or a permit, that is almost half of that is going directly back into the conservation of the species that you're probably hunting. Without this funding, there's no way we would be able to manage the huge amounts of public land that we have in this state. That hunter that's going out November cold and he's looking for his whitetail, he's not a cold-blooded killer. He's actually a conservationist. That money is going directly, or almost all of that money is going directly back into conservation. Okay. Obviously, not all of the money is coming from hunting and fishing licenses. A good portion of it is also coming from something called the Wildlife Restoration Act. This was passed in 1937 by Franklin Roosevelt. It was enacted because of all the damage that was done in early America without all the conservation ideas that we have nowadays. He passed it to try to repair some of the damage that had been done by early Americans. What the Pittman-Robertson Act is it takes a percentage of the taxes from firearm and ammo sales, and that is taken and put directly back into conservation. So in fiscal year 2020, $17 million was funded alone just from the Pittman-Robertson Act here. Okay, so where is that money going? It's doing a lot. Where this money is going, it's going to scientists to help assess abundance and health of this wildlife. It's going to enforcement, so we're talking about enforcing fish and game laws, like game wardens, conservation officers. It's also helping keep our public land open, which I think is extremely important. So to wrap things up here, this is what I want you to take away from this. I want you to understand that hunters and fishermen are essentially the ones that are funding conservation inside of this state. Most of the money is coming from, obviously, like I said before, it's coming from hunting and fishing licenses, and it's coming from funds from the Pittman-Robertson Act. So we are the people that are essentially funding conservation in this state. Okay. Last thing I want to touch on in conclusion here is this is a picture from an article written by Travis Smola from a website called Wide Open Spaces. He wrote about how during the 19th and 20th century in America, overhunting was extremely prevalent, and we almost hunted a lot of our game species to extinction. And you can see in this picture, this is one of the better ones. There's ones that are a lot worse that I didn't want to put on this video, but you can see the amount of deer hanging there on that pole. And we just don't do that nowadays with wildlife enforcement and conservation laws. So, thank you.